The gates are open, fans filing in. It is week 4 of the NFL season, and it's homecoming day at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. The New England Patriots come to town fresh with their brand new tailback, Ezekiel Elliott, now facing the Dallas Cowboys for the first time. Man, it's weird, it's interesting hearing that sentence going well, but it is week 4. It's the Dallas Cowboys. It's the New England Patriots here on Cowboys Pregame. Live, brought to you by WinStar, World Casino and Resorts. We've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. Nick Eatman will join us very shortly out at AT&T Stadium. But, gentlemen, like I said, it's interesting seeing Zeke on the opposite side of things. We'll get to plenty of that in a couple moments. But first, it's a bounce-back opportunity for this Dallas Cowboys team, coming in at 2-1 on the season. They've been very good underneath Mike McCarthy in bounce-back games, 9-1 since the beginning of the 2021 season. And look at the numbers on the offensive and defensive sides of the football. And then Dallas have won those games, 6 of those games, by at least 10 points along the way. They're looking for another one of those today, Barry. How do they get it done against the Patriots?
I think it starts on the defensive side of the football. I mean, that's the strength of your team so far this season. Even though they had a little bit of a mishap last week against Arizona, the strength of your team is the defense. I think they're going to get back on track. As the record shows, Mike McCarthy has done a great job in getting his team prepared after taking a tough loss. This is going to be another tough matchup, kind of a chess matchup between Belichick and Mike McCarthy. Looking forward to it. Should be a great game.
I'm taking it straight down to the trenches.
Okay.
The reason why, because New England Patriots, you go back into their history, all their teams are made up of the big fellas up front, whether offensively, defensively. If you can't control the line of scrimmage, you can't control any aspect of this game. That's going to be the biggest challenge for Dallas today.
44-yard run, 45-yard run, a 69-yard pass. You can't do that and give up 222 yards of rushing. You can't have those big plays, and you cannot have the run game act like the way it did. So you got to take away one of them or both of them, and you will be successful today.
After a historic first 2 weeks of the regular season and had Cowboys Nation really flying high, looking great, talking Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden all those expectations come crashing down because of the loss against the Cardinals in week 3, but a chance to rebound, a chance to do it better this week than you did a week ago. And, of course, being at home helps out as well. But one of the knocks against that week 3 loss is that it looked like the Cowboys were thoroughly outcoached by the Arizona Cardinals coaching staff. Well, it doesn't get much easier for the Cowboys today because they go up against Bill Belichick, one of the best coaches of all time. It's the 3rd time that Dak Prescott will face Bill Belichick, specifically their first matchup back in 2019. The Cowboys fall in a sloppy, rainy game up in New England. 13-9 was the final score. He had just 212 yards, did not have a touchdown. He had 1 interception. However, the script flipped in 2021, 35-29 in overtime, a walk-off win for the Cowboys. A pitch and catch from Dak Prescott to CeeDee Lamb ends up in a win, and you look at the numbers there. Dak had a much better day against Bill Belichick and that Patriots team the second time around. Looking to try and do it for the 3rd time this time around.
Yeah, without a doubt, we all understand what Bill Belichick does best. He takes away what that offense loves to do. And so far this season, this offense loves to get CeeDee Lamb the football. 19 catches, 273 yards. The man is balling. So I can see Belichick cooking up something to slow down the production of CeeDee Lamb. This is where that chess match comes in. Mike McCarthy's going to have to counterpunch that, whether that means a big day from Tony Pollard, the receivers, Cooks and Gallup, or maybe even the tight ends. One of these secondary options are going to have to step up in order for this offense to be productive.
I totally agree with you, Barry, but I also know that Coach Belichick, again, to that point, is going to try to muddy up the waters for Dak Prescott. Yes. He's going to try to make it very complicated. Last week, you saw a little bit of that come back into the fold as Coach Gannon from Arizona was able to disguise some of those coverages, and again, it resulted in an interception of Dak. Also, what is going to take place? Well, guess what? This offense is pretty doggone tricky with Billy O'Brien, okay? So it's not the same offense that you faced from the New England Patriots of recent years. They have more weapons, they have more guys, they have more running backs, and they're going to try to make things difficult for.
Slow down your best defensive rusher. But one thing that always throws him off, he never seems to be ready for a quarterback that'll go and get that first down and keep the chains moving. If Dak can get a first down here, a first down there, everything will be okay. I'm telling you, He never prepares for that.
Yeah, never does, but he does prepare for the Cowboys as a whole. He was 5-0 against the Cowboys with Tom Brady, but 0-1 without Tom Brady. So the Cowboys did get their first win against Bill Belichick and company. It took that stat line from Dak Prescott. How can he recreate some of that against Bill Belichick today?
I think it comes down to decision making. I mean, that's what the big thing when it comes down to Dak Prescott. We all understand he has the athletic ability. He has the moxie back there and the control of this offense to do big things, but what he cannot do is compound the issue. When you see your receiver, your number one option, covered up by plenty of defenders, don't go ahead and try to force that ball in there. Use your legs. We've seen a lot of that last week and a couple weeks before that. So to me, he got to use his athleticism a little bit more, and better decision making will come for a better offensive production.
You know, you can have better offensive production.
What's that?
Run the ball.
That's true.
You got to be able to run the ball. You have to be able to move these big fellas off the line of scrimmage, and I know that's easier said than done. I'm sure my big fella next to me can attest to that. But these guys have to establish something up front. If they don't get a running game going, it's going to be hard sledding against this defense, because then you start getting into all the different schemes that he has defensively, and you have to put the ball in the air. And I don't want to put Dak in a predicament where he has to throw the ball 35-plus times a game.
Stay ahead of the change with the running game, with the short screen game. Keep these guys defending the whole field. And what I ask from Dak is, believe what you see. Last week we saw him double pumping. Believe what you see. If the first option is there, take it. Trust in it.
Got to trust in it, and he's had these numbers throughout the season. I mean, just the 3 passing touchdowns, all of which have gone to non-wide receivers, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show as well. How do you get guys like CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup involved in the red zone? But let's hear about Dak Prescott and going up against Bill Belichick. There are certainly expectations going into this matchup, but he's also not necessarily putting that loss behind him just yet. He's letting it motivate him in this offense going into week 4.
Nobody likes to lose. Nobody likes to lose, especially in a game that you expect to win. Forget the media, whatever. It's not you guys, but you know what I mean. Forget whatever your lines are and whatever y'all say. Nobody wants to lose, but we understand how tough it is in this league, and so even after a loss, you come in and you know what I'm saying. You reset a little bit, humbled a little bit, and it just allows you to focus a little bit more. And I think that's just credit to these guys in this locker room, to these coaches of blocking out the outside noise and understanding that what's really important is just this day right in front of us and preparing there.
How pissed off are you about that loss, this team, this locker room? I mean, you've had losses in the past, but I don't know.
I was pissed off. I mean, I'm always pissed off. I'm always pissed off after a loss. I don't know if we can rate my different levels of pissed offness, but yeah, it sucks. It really does. You don't do anything, you know what I'm saying, with the idea of losing or thinking you're going to lose, and until that last second, you know what I mean? It's not really a reality in your head, and so, we're pissed off.
AT&T Stadium getting ready and filing in. Of course, the Cowboys and the Patriots normally slated to fit and play each other once every 4 years, period, and then once every 8 years at home. But the Cowboys joined live by Nick Eatman. Nick, I mean, bounce back is certainly the number one thing on the mind, not only for Cowboys Nation, for the guys in the locker room. Do you sense a different feeling on that sideline throughout this week going into it? It looks like we're having some technical difficulties at the moment. Can you hear me, Nick?
I should have just let it go.
So there you go. So there's Nick Eatman. We'll try and catch back up with him in a couple moments. A little technical difficulties. It's the regular season. We've still got plenty to learn here. Let's go to Ezekiel Elliott. We've talked about that a little bit early on and how Ezekiel Elliott certainly making his homecoming and making his return to AT&T Stadium not only brings an emphasis on stopping the run after the Cowboys gave up 222 yards on the ground last week, but it also brings some emotion playing against his former team.
I'm very appreciative. I'm very appreciative for the time, I spent in Dallas. I'm very thankful for, Mr. Jones and the Jones family, drafting me and giving me an opportunity. But once again, I'm focused on going and getting the win.
I think on the football side of things, Coach Schottenheimer this week was asked about you and also asked about Will Greer, and basically said the quote was, they know where a lot of the bones are buried. In other words, they can help the team, of course. And I'm wondering, is that something that you can do for this team? Can you help this team prepare for Dallas based on some knowledge you might have?
I don't know how much of the stuff they run is the same from when I was there. I could help, with personnel and kind of help talk about certain guys and how they play. But, I don't know, how much of the same stuff they run from when I was there.
How do you expect your emotions are going to be when you go back there?
I'm gonna try to keep it even keel. I think just in any moment, in any game, how big or how small, you gotta keep your emotions, here. You gotta stay neutral, and you can't, get too high, get too low. You gotta stay neutral and realize you got one job to do.
Is there any motivation to make them regret not re-signing you?
I think that's every week.
The motivation's certainly there for Ezekiel Elliott. He's going to downplay it a little bit, but even prior to the game, photos, snapshots being taken on the sideline of him interacting with Dak Prescott, a couple of his former teammates, in his return to AT&T Stadium. And it'll be a nice return. Everybody still loves Zeke here as a part of the Cowboys franchise. You just can't have him win the game here in Week 4. Let's check back in on the sideline. I believe we have Nick Eatman back. Nick, can you hear me from AT&T Stadium?
I can hear you, Kyle. What's up, man?
Nothing much. All right, so that's good. We've got you back. I wanted to talk about bouncing back. It's not only bouncing back here on the one-on-one interview, but we're bouncing back in terms of the Cowboys trying to get a win in Week 4. Do you sense a better feeling in that locker room and what the Cowboys are bringing to the table against the Patriots?
Well, I would hope so. I mean, if it's not, then it's going to be 2-2. If you don't bring the energy for this game like that, I think they got hit in the mouth in this last game against Arizona, and it was a good wake-up call, reality check, whatever you want to say, that any team in this league can beat you, especially if you're not ready for it, especially if you're not as focused as you have to be. So Bill Belichick, best coach of all time, is coming to town. Ezekiel Elliott's ready to run them over. The Patriots, they're desperate too. They need to get back to 2-2. The Cowboys obviously want to avoid that. So, yeah, I would think the focus has got to be much better than it was last week.
So the focus might not only be better than last week, but it might be more hyper-focused going into that offensive line. Cowboys were missing 3 starters up front last week. Do you anticipate getting any of those guys back here in Week 4?
It certainly looks that way just from the inactives. With Zach Martin and Tyler Biotish both being active for the game. They were able to do a little bit more practice-wise. That's the way it's trending right now, but we'll see. When kickoff goes, we were a little surprised last week with Tyron Smith. So I do think Zach Martin is the guy that has the best chance to play. They're probably going to see about Tyler Biotish. There is a reason why they put Brock Hoffman on the active roster, but I do think that they're going to be a little bit better than they were last week. And also, with Chuma Edoga at left tackle, he practiced all week at that spot. Mm-hmm. So I do think one way or another they're going to be better going into this game just because they practice more as a unit.
Now, speaking on that in the offensive line, building confidence just from having some sort of continuity on that offensive line, does that change things for the rest of the offense, and does that bring more success if they're able to go the entire game?
I would think so. I mean, Nate's right there next to you. He would know better than anybody from a continuity standpoint, though, about when one guy goes down. Obviously, it's the next man up and all that, but when you can get your core linemen together all thinking as one, that's certainly better than the alternative. So if that can happen, I think it could be a good week for the Cowboys. But this test is going to be much tougher than it was against New England because, New England than it was against Arizona just because New England likes to move their fronts 3-4, 4-3 in the middle of a game. So they're going to be on their P's and Q's a little bit more this week.
We just heard from Ezekiel Elliott earlier in the week. How do you anticipate New England using the tailback in his return to AT&T?
I think he's going to run it harder than he's ever run, and that's scary because that's been his MO. He's a guy that's going to get the ball and run right up the middle and lower his head and try to run you over and doesn't care about you or your family. That's the way he's run. He's gonna run even harder in this game. Now, this is the type of back that doesn't always hurt the Cowboys as much, but still, it's hard to judge someone with what's inside of them. I think Bill Belichick's going to try to get him, the ball, going to try to get him maybe that touchdown or whatever. Yeah. But they're going to have to kind of withstand the storm there with Zeke.
It is a homecoming that both Cowboys fans and New England fans are going to be watching. Ezekiel Elliott versus his former team. Nick Eatman joining us here from AT&T Stadium on the sideline. We'll hear from Nick later on in the show. Thanks so much, Nick. As we return here to the Star in Frisco, we've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, ready to break down this Cowboys and Patriots matchup. One last thing on Ezekiel Elliott, because it does bring some emotion to the table, is it more of a challenge for the Cowboys side of things, facing their former teammate, or is it more of a challenge for Ezekiel Elliott facing his former team?
I'm going to go with more of a challenge for Zeke facing the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I was nowhere near the player that Ezekiel Elliott is, but when I came back to play Dallas, it was extremely awkward because you think about it. You're going against your teammates you played with for 7+ years. You're in the stadium that you called home for 7+ years, but this time you're on the opposite side of the field. You're in that visitor's locker room, and that tunnel that you come through, the fans are all cheering for you. Yeah, let's go, Zeke. They're praying for your downfall on this one. So to me, it's a little bit more awkward on Zeke's side of the ball, but believe he's a professional, and they're going to get the best version of Ezekiel Elliott this afternoon. So they better buckle their chin straps up and get ready.
Yeah, they better buckle up because I'm going to flip it to the other side. I think it's going to be more challenging for this team to face their old teammate, Mr. Ezekiel Elliott. Okay, I like to call him Freaky Zeke because he is an absolute beast when he has a ball in his hand. But the reason why it's more difficult for them is simply because of the fact they have to to the ground by any means necessary. We all understand that this is a violent game, and you have somehow, some way, you have to be able to cut that friendship aspect of things when the game starts and go out there and do your assignment.
I think it's going to be interesting to see the first time that the Cowboys really do lay a significant hand on Ezekiel Elliott. Who is the first one to make a tackle? Who's the first one to decleat Zeke? I mean, it's going to happen. This Dallas.
Do they help him up?
Yeah. Is there some sort of brotherhood there? I mean, whatever it ends up being, it's must-watch television, and it'll be fun to watch. Now, it isn't just Zeke in that backfield. They have some guys that can tote the rock, starting with Ramondre Stevenson, who's also in that Patriots backfield. Here's the split statistics. Keep an eye on that yards per carry. The yards per attempt have been more efficient with Ezekiel Elliott, but Ramondre Stevenson on the opposite side, he hasn't been as efficient, but he's seen more carries. Isaiah, when you look at this combination in the backfield, how are they going to challenge this Dallas defense?
You know what? I think this is actually a matchup that the Dallas Cowboys should be relatively successful against in terms of the personnel in the backfield. The challenge for Dallas is going to be on their offensive line and whether or not they can actually get some penetration on these guys and move them off the ball. Coach Belichick does not mind playing bully ball. He will hand the ball off 472 times in a game if you allow him to. And that's going to be, he's that stubborn. So if you allow any kind of movement backwards and your assault on trying to get on this offense, then you're going to be in for a very long day because these two backs are bullheaded enough and the coach is bullheaded enough to keep running that thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Isaiah. I don't think it'll be as tough as last week because they don't have to deal with that RPO look or that athletic quarterback that can turn the corner and pretty much open up the run game. But this will be an extremely physical matchup. You're talking about two backs that are bowling ball style running backs out there that can wear a defense down. So to me, the Dallas Cowboys, they've got to make sure that they can make this team one-dimensional. It starts with the run. You have to earn the right to rush, so you got to stop the running backs back there. Let's hope that Dallas Cowboys has a better display than they did last week.
And for the most part, this is a New England team that likes to run the football. That's certainly the case, as Isaiah just pointed out. But this year, they've been playing from behind quite a bit. Week 1 against Philadelphia, they played from behind. Week 2 against Miami, same deal. Even against the Jets, it was a battle back and forth, so it was more of a balanced attack. I mean, when you look at their passing game led by Mac Jones, he's normally known as a game manager, but he's actually top 5 in the NFL in terms of passing attempts this season. Here are his 2023 numbers. Barry, as a defender, where do you want to exploit Mac Jones as he continues to work into a role with the New England Patriots?
Well, look, I mean, Mac Jones, he might not be the most athletic quarterback out there, but he's accurate. As you saw up there, completing 65% of his passes out there. But to me, where it all starts is you got to make this team one-dimensional, so you got to stop the run and force the Patriots to rely on Mac Jones's arm to be productive out there. And even though he's accurate, he's a statue in the backfield. So that kind of plays the part of the Dallas Cowboys. They should be able to get after him, start the rush, and force him to go ahead and turn the football over. But it all starts with the running game. They're going to have to stop that in order to get to Mac Jones.
You're correct. I believe that, and matter of fact, I don't even believe, I know. I was in a room as a quarterback in New England with Billy O'Brien, who happens to be the offensive coordinator. He was my quarterback coach and my offensive coordinator. This dude is an absolute goon, okay? When it comes to this, he will exploit your weakness, and much like we keep hearing about Coach Belichick, he is the bully. He is the schoolyard bully that will keep putting you into the ground no matter what it is. So whether it is that you can't stop the run or whether you can't stop the pass, or there's somebody specifically on the defensive backside that he plans on going in and trying to attack. They have multiple schemes. These guys have multiple routes. Every time they step to the line of scrimmage, this isn't just, okay, you're running a slant. It's like, if you're running a slant, you're running a slant versus this coverage. If they play this coverage, then you run this. He always gives these guys the route tree that they need and the flexibility to be in the right spot at the right time for their success.
Would you call Micah Parsons a bully as well?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So what happens when a bully meets a bully?
Somebody get knocked out.
Oh, see, there
somebody
you go.
I don't know which one, but somebody get
Barry's
knocked
on
out.
top of it. Come on now. I mean, he knows what it's like whenever bullies go up against bullies, and that's what Micah Parsons is going to have to do. Isaiah, you just mentioned it. Bill O'Brien is going to try and take away a guy like Mike.
Chip the crap out of him. I remember, like I said, my time in New England when I was underneath Billy O'Brien, when we would play against Indianapolis Colts, they had Dwight Freeney. And my job was literally to go out there and ensure that Dwight Freeney never had a free release off the line of scrimmage. That's going to be much like the case for Micah Parsons. So he's going to have one of those frustrating games where he's either going through a tight end, he's going through a running back. Somebody's always going to be trying to blow his shoulder off of his arm and to ensure that he doesn't have a free release to the quarterback.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, all the attention going to Micah Parsons, you understand, you're going to get double teams, you're going to get chipped and all that other stuff. But Parsons is going to have to find a way to impact the game. If it's not sacking the quarterback, get your hands up, bat a ball down, make this, down a distance longer on third down. He's that type of player that where if it's not TFLs, if it's not sacks, he can make a difference somewhere somehow. And I think batting the ball down will be one of those instances.
The pressures have been there for Micah Parsons, but so have the sacks. I mean, he's had a sack in each of the first 3 games. If he has another one today, he'll join just DeMarcus Ware and DeMarcus Lawrence, the 2 DeMarcuses, as the only Cowboys players to have a sack in the team's first 4 games of a season. He would, of course, be at 5 if that's the case. Let's hear from Micah about the pressure being put on him and some of the challenges that fold here in Week 4.
Yeah, it's super frustrating, especially when you look at the tape. When you strive for perfection and you striving and you pushing for it and you say you want to be this, have this identity and you say you want to do these things, anyone can say it, but you got to go out there and do it. So when you don't do it and you don't play up to the standard, so it's not like who you want to be, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, I got to be better in this phase, I got to do this in this phase, and you got to go out there and change. If we don't change, then we're just as good as anyone else, or we're never going to grow. But if you look at the face of reality and say, hey, this is who I am right now, this is who I want to be, and I go out there and fix it, then you'll become a better person, player, and man. So that's who we got to be.
When you have a bad performance like that, what are the positives that you can take away from it?
The positives of failure is that you always learn. That you never really lose. You lose in a moment and that sucks, but the positive, you always learn. So that's what I'm saying. You never want to take a double L. You never want to lose and not learn. You always want to lose and learn and fix your mistakes, because that's why, we're human. We're players. No one's perfect. We play perfect ball. But
bring that pressure. You know who's been doing that from the New England side of things? How about Matthew Judon? 368 tackles throughout his career, and then the sacks that he's put up. He's been fantastic, and he's done so in different ways. He's more of a power and length sort of edge rusher, whereas Micah's more based off of the speed, but he can beat you in a couple different ways. As we welcome you back in to Cowboys Pregame Live, we are here with Nate Newton as we continue to get you ready for the Cowboys and Patriots. Nate, when you look at a guy like Matthew Judon, one, would you have been able to block him back in your day?
I don't like to go there, Kyle.
I like putting you on the spot.
They are great players, and I would hope that my technique and my massive girth would have slowed him down just a little bit.
Well, what about the way that he does attack these current offensive linemen? How does he have success?
He has success because they, just like Micah Parsons, they move him around a lot. You can see him in the A gap. You can see him on both right and left outside linebackers. But the reason he is so successful is because Dietrich Wise, Devon Garchuk, Christian Barrymore, and Lawrence Guy Sr., these guys will eat up blocks and they will take care of blocks. And when they turn to him, they make sure that everybody I wish I had Newton's Law here to really show you what I mean when they turn to you. But when they slide to him, they make sure that he still has one-on-one protection. And if you're trying to block him one-on-one, that's when he becomes a Micah Parsons.
Yeah, that's really the thing that's so impressive of what Judon brings to the table is the fact that he's not just a one-trick pony. He can beat you in multiple ways, and he's going to try and do so against the depleted offensive line for the Dallas Cowboys. But good news, Cowboys Nation, it's not as depleted as it was last week. You get 2 of those 3 starters back in the fold. You look at the inactive list, no Zach Martin, no Tyler Biadasz. Both of those guys are available and ready for the Cowboys, as really for the most part, there's a chance to get that offensive line back and going, but you probably will see Chuma Edoga at left tackle.
Chuma Edoga, so we have no who?
So there is Zach Martin, back.
Back.
Tyler Biadasz, back at center. So the 4 guys from the left guard to the right tackle are good. The only one you're missing, Tyron Smith, he's out and inactive.
We own and popping. You know that right now. There's no excuses not to run your regular offense to make things happen. We needed these guys because the guys I named earlier can get upfield. They're great run defenders. They two-gap with the best of them. And by us having two of those guys back, our offensive line should be set because we're going to have to run the ball to try to maintain it so our defense can stay fresh. Hey, these guys being back is a great thing.
What about Tyron Smith, him being out with that knee injury, second straight week? He suited up last week, did not suit up, of course, this week. They ruled him out even before the end of the week happened. How big of a loss is it on that left tackle spot?
Always a big loss. We kind of struggled last week, but, we had a lot of guys out. But this time we only have one guy out. So we'll be able to turn our protection. We'll have Chip with the linebackers. We'll have Chip with the running backs. We can set a tight end over there and just let him sit there. So then we should be okay. I'm telling you, Kyle, we should have no problems. We just run our regular offense.
Even against a Patriots defense that traditionally has always been very good, but especially this year too, 4.5 yards per play is all they're allowing. That's fourth in the NFL. They've been fantastic at allowing little to no yardage. Can this offensive line take advantage of that and still try and move the ball down the field?
I just think, if you would get the receivers involved, get the ball out quicker. Don't so much try to run against them. I mean, that's not giving up much. They gave up Philly, 92 yards. That's what they average giving up 92 yards. It ain't so much that you got to bang your head against them. Make their linebackers and make their safeties cover your tight ends and your wide receivers, long handles. I mean, swing out of the backfield. Let Tony go one-on-one. And that way we'll have a chance. Don't just try to run up into a brick wall. That's not smart.
You think the Patriots can present a brick wall? How are they going to continue to challenge this team?
They can present a brick wall. and like I say, the guys that are earlier, Devon, Barrymore, Dietrich, these guys, they would sit down. They would grab your guard and your center, and they would just stick to them. Whether they go right, whether they go left, whether they try to push, they would drop and sit down. They're not going to let you do that. The guys that have single-digit numbers, Brantley, Judon, all the guys that with single-digit numbers, those are the guys they want to make tackles. Mm-hmm. The guys with double-digit numbers, those are big down linemen. They don't care. They just eat up blocks. And like I said earlier, if you're trying to run into that brick wall and you don't have success, then they're going to turn Judon loose on you.
Yeah.
You got to have success. And I think you should throw the ball coming out of the backfield a little bit more. Okay. Screen passes.
Yeah, screen plays, get it in the flats, find those guys open with space. There are going to be ways to get this offense rolling, even with as good of a front seven as what the Patriots bring to the table. With that being said, though, the big plays have not been there for the Dallas Cowboys. Can they get the big play? Can they move the ball down the field in chunk yardage? I don't know. We haven't seen it yet. But you know who does know?
Who is that?
The Science Lab. Patrick No C. Walker breaks things down. He takes a look inside the numbers and the science of how the Cowboys can have success today.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Patrick No C. Walker, and you are in the Science Lab, where each week we will pull one or two items out of our lab coat to see how the Cowboys can improve going forward or what they've been doing well. In this week's segment of Lab Coat on Cowboys Break, I broke down two numbers that you need to focus on going into Week 4 against the New England Patriots.
The two numbers, 40 and 5, ladies and gentlemen, 40 and 5. 40 is very bad. In 2019, the Cowboys were nearly 40% more explosive than they are through the first 3 weeks in 2023. That's kind of a disturbing trend. That shows that between those two seasons, Cowboys are in fact less explosive on big plays. 2021, they're only 5% more explosive than they are in 2023 through the first 3 weeks with Dak in this personnel set. That's actually not that bad, because that goes back to what you were saying about next gen, perception versus what the numbers bear out. But then that caused me to dig a little bit deeper into 2021 to say, okay, well, considering it's the same coaching staff in 21 as 23 with Mike McCarthy, how would Mike McCarthy fare after that first 3 weeks of trying to figure out some things on the offense? Well, 25% jump in explosiveness from week 1 through week 3 versus week 4 through week 7.
And there you have it, folks. As I explained, the Cowboys, although they are struggling through the first 3 weeks of this season, when you compare it up against where they were through the first 3 weeks of the 2021, I know you're just like me and Kyle Yeomans as well back in the studio. You gotta love that type of optimism.
Of course, Patrick, of course big plays are always welcome. They're always welcome on an offensive side of things. Dak Prescott and this offense have shown in the past that they can be predicated off the big plays, those gains down the field. Isaiah, you're a big fan of that, right?
I am a big fan of that, Kyle.
But you're not going to see that a whole lot this year, right?
I haven't seen much of that so far, not yet.
No, not on this West Coast offense. This is an offense that really works and lives, thrives off of moving the chains, working the ball down the field. And that's what they've done this year. They've had the first down. They've had the long, methodical drives. But you're not necessarily going to see those over-the-top type of plays. Is that okay for this offense moving forward?
It's okay from one standpoint, Kyle, but you want to see the big plays. The reason why you want to keep this defense off your back. You want these guys to back up and have to respect your plays down the field, because when they do so, now all of a sudden your short game picks up. Now all of a sudden your running game picks up. But this style of offense, even though successful, you have to find a way to put this thing in the end zone. 75, 80 plays a game is awesome, as long as you're scoring touchdowns.
Yeah, you got to find a way to cap off the drives, because it's not an exciting brand of football, but certainly it's something that can work to your success, right?
Absolutely you can. I mean, you can definitely work to your success if you can get your playmakers the ball. But it's all about that yak yardage, Kyle. Yards after catch. If you can find a way to get your yards after catch going, then you're in good shape. But you have to have some space in order to do that. And then when you're playing a short game all the time, everybody's just going to play on top of you.
So we just heard from Patrick Walker in Science Lab. Let's go back to school a little bit. So we not only are in the lab, well, we're going back to the classroom as well. Hope you have your notebooks out, because Isaiah Stanback's about to teach you a couple things. We're going to talk about one of those guys that could be a vertical threat, Brandon Cooks. He hasn't been that vertical threat. Just 4 receptions, 39 yards on 11 targets. It hasn't really looked great for Brandon Cooks. Has some of Cowboys Nation maybe worried that he's a bust in 2023. Do you think that's the case, and is there a way to fix it?
I don't think that's the case, Kyle, but I do think there is a better way to utilize him.
Okay.
And to date, they just have not utilized him, taking advantage of the opportunities that have been present. He has, 6,000-yard seasons coming into this year, right? He's off to a slow start. He can still hit it, but you can't do it throwing short game. So let's go take a peek at how the Cowboys have been utilizing him and see exactly what they need to change in order to ensure that he can proceed making those big plays like he has in recent years. So here he is right here in the slot. They do a good job of moving him around, right? But on this particular play, they are facing what? Cover 2, okay? So there's going to be cover 2 on the back end. Bow, bow, bow. You have your corner here. You have your corners down here. Safeties are sitting over the top. Perfect, all right? Middle of the field should be open. Let's see what happens at the snap of the ball. Boom, next play. So now he's getting into his route. As he gets into his route, he is running what we call a slant route. Okay, run 5 yards and cross the face of the defensive back. All right, let's see what happens at the end result. Boom, he catches the ball. Here he is right here. Does a good job, catches the ball. But then again, we talk about what, Kyle? Yak yardage, yards after catch. Well, as you can see right here, as soon as he catches that 5-yard route, he's getting blown up. Successful catch, move the chains down the field, but no big play.
Yeah, you're putting him in a situation where he's able to have the possession. The possession will work. I mean, catches are good, right? But he only has 4 of those. How can you get some of that separation and build some of that moving forward?
Well, let's put him on the outside, Kyle. You just saw him right there in the slot. So now let's go ahead and bump him down here. Okay, so now we put him one-on-one down here on the outside. It sounds like a good job. Sounds like a great opportunity. I like the matchup all day long. But what happens here when teams recognize that you're going to put him on the outside? Well, they start doing what again? Again, let's go cover 2. Okay, you see the 2-high safety. 2-high safety, right? You're going to see this safety. They're running a 3-high. He's going to drop down into that middle linebacker spot. All right, let's see what happens. Boom, push the play. All right, he's getting into his route. What happens the majority of your routes in the route tree when you roll the coverage? Well, if I had a comeback, I can't run a comeback into cover 2. Clear that. Oh, what if I had an in route? I can't run an in route versus cover 2 either. What about a curl? I can't run a curl. So what ends up happening to majority of your routes? A majority of your routes turn into a conversion, what we call a conversion route, which pretty much turns into a clear out route. Defenses know that, and because defenses know that, well, now all of a sudden he's subject to do what? Just clear out. He's no longer a part of the route concept. He's now running decoy so that his other players, such as Ferguson, can sit up here in these zones between the defensive backs and the linebackers and eat all day. So, successful play for the Cowboys, but then again, your man right here, B. Cooks, is no longer involved because they know once he's on the outside, roll coverage to him, everything that he wants to run will convert.
So you're talking about rolling coverage in this play specifically. If we could go back to that previous play, I want to talk about that a little bit real quick.
Sure.
You mentioned that. What does that term mean, and how does that just completely vacate him from a quarterback standpoint, because you can't really throw him the ball?
Absolutely. So when this cornerback, okay, we talk about rolling coverage. Roll coverage is cover 2. Okay, corner sits, corner sits, okay? You have your linebackers that are getting out, all right, to the flats. You got your hook flats right here, and then your safeties are over the top. That's what we call rolling coverage, when these corners are sitting in this section, okay? So majority of the routes that he wants to run, he cannot run any longer, okay? We talked about the in, he can't run it. We talked about the curl, he can't run it. We talked about the outs, he can't run it. All these routes, that majority of the routes that you would typically see him in terms of making plays, he can no longer run them because this coverage negates his ability to do so. So when that roll coverage presents itself, when defenses know he's on the outside, they simply say, if we roll coverage, we can cancel out 90% of the routes that he wants to run.
And that's, of course, a problem for Brandon Cooks because then he's not utilized. But even whenever he does get that separation, he hasn't been throwing the ball. So what's been happening there?
Oh, so what? Let's get rid of 5-yard routes, huh? Let's get rid of him getting roll coverage. We get him first.
Take that out of
the element, okay? We got single high. We know we're going to get single high. Let's put him on the outside. ISO. No more 5-yard routes. We got one of the most explosive receivers in the game. Let's push him down the field. All right, sounds like a great idea. So we're going to run B. Cooks on what we call a comeback. We're going to run about 17 yards and then boop, break it back down the line, okay? You guys see back here in the backfield, we have play action going, okay? Dak's going to come out and boot out. All right, good. Play action, that's what Dak does well. B. Cooks runs down the field. Those are two positives. Let's see what happens. All right, next snapshot. Boom, we see right here. Here comes Dak coming out on the bootleg. But alert, alert, what's going on? We have a defensive end that is unblocked. Okay, a lot of pressure in his face. All right, let's take a look at the next snapshot. Boom, now all of a sudden, Dak Prescott is now under extreme duress. He is getting wrapped up. He's fighting to try to get away out of it because he knows that his receiver is what? His receiver has ran his 17-yard comeback, and he is scot-free. This dude is literally by himself. DB's shoulders are going up that way. B. Cooks is coming down this way. He is going to be wide open if what? If Dak wasn't getting sacked. So you either have a 5-yard route that B. Cooks is running, you either have road coverage that's taking out majority of his routes, or when he does get open and runs down the field, because that's where you want him getting the ball, you don't have time. That's 3 misses, 3 swings. Bad for the Cowboys. You got to find a way to get him involved. What you've shown on the tape, first 3 weeks, hasn't worked out. What are they going to do this week?
Would you be safe to say that's 3 strikes and the batter's out, just like the Seattle Mariners against the Texas Rangers today?
What you did there, Kyle.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. He's a Seattle guy. I just had to throw that in there. Now, he's not the only one that's been struggling, especially in the red zone, if you're talking about the wide receiver core. CeeDee Lamb's had plenty of targets outside of the red zone. Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb have combined for a whopping 0 targets in the red zone this season from the Dallas Cowboys. So how can he have success? Well, Clarence Hill asked the question earlier this week to CeeDee Lamb, what happens and where can success be found in the red zone?
Right. Can you just talk about how they can use you and do things to help the offense in the red zone?
What's up with this man?
What's that? Is red zone not been a focus this week? I mean,
yes, it's definitely. Yeah, we got to score. We have to score. It's no secret. We've been like 3-11 in the last 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. So let me touch the rock. We're gonna get in the end zone.
Thank you.
Red zone issues aside, overall, how would you assess the offense?
I mean, you can't necessarily put that to the side because, I mean, at the end of each drive you want to score. But we have no problem getting into the red zone, right? So moving the ball has been real good for us. Now we've been real consistent in that degree, but getting to the red zone, it's like everything kind of, shut down. So we got to do, once again, a better job of getting in the end zone, finishing off drives, and rewarding our defense.
And, of course, while the Cowboys want to take things 1 week at a time, they do head to Santa Clara next week to take on the 49ers in Week 5 of the 2023 season. You can come out to Miller Lite House at AT&T Stadium October 8th for a free watch party presented by 7-Eleven. You can cheer on the Cowboys alongside Cowboys cheerleaders, rowdy, enjoying $5 Miller Lights. You got some barbecue out there, game day fare, and a whole lot more. Gates open at 6 p.m., kickoff at 7:20. For more info and to claim your free ticket, visit DallasCowboys.com/watch party. And of course, go Cowboys, not only in Week 5, but we got a Week 4 game to preview here as well. Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Cowboys, Patriots coming up at 3:25 on Fox. We just heard from CeeDee Lamb. We heard about some of the red zone struggles. We heard previous from Back to School with Isaiah Stanback about getting Brandon Cooks involved. Is there a concern, the fact that there has not been a wide receiver reception in the red zone this season?
Yeah, I'm slightly concerned because to me it shows lack of creativity when you're going into the red zone. And to me, for your best offensive threat, CeeDee Lamb, in my opinion, is the best offensive threat. To not have a receiving touchdown or at least an option to catch a football out there, to me that shows lack of creativity, and they've got to get that situation ratified if they want to move forward in the red zone.
I'm not going to go as far as saying a lack of creativity, but I am going to say lack of execution. And the fact that you have the most targets in the league with Jake Ferguson with 8, leading even over Tyreek Hill. Okay, you have to find a way to punch that in there. And if you're not throwing it in the air, then please at least run it in there, Big Nate.
You've got to. First down, second down. If you're inside the 5 or the 10, inside the 10 or the 5, run it first. Make them linebackers tighten up. Then if you want to go third down, you want to spread them out, that's another situation. That's the only problem, fellas. Run the ball, and everything else will free itself up.
Cowboys 6 of 15 in the red zone this season. Isaiah mentioned the stat where Jake Ferguson leads the NFL with 8 red zone targets this season. How deflating is it from a team standpoint to have a big-time drive, double-digit drive down the field, and then you get it stalled out in front of the red zone?
It's definitely deflating. And I understand, all offenses want to end the drive with a kick, whether that's a field goal or a PAT. But when you're going against these upper echelon teams, I'm talking about the Philadelphias, the San Franciscos of the world.
I mean, it hurt you against the Cardinals.
It did hurt you against the Cardinals as well. You can't end every drive with a field goal. You got to put some type of points on the board, put some type of pressure on that opposing team. And the Cowboys so far this season haven't been able to do that.
I feel the frustration.
You just feel it off of me.
The defensive players can't stand when the offensive players don't score touchdowns. And from the offensive perspective, we hate it too. We work all week long to work on getting the ball in the red zone, and then we have 2 days where we work on just red zone plays. So to not punch it in the end zone is absolutely a slap in your own face. Make a way, make it happen. Let's go, Captain.
2 tight ends, a fullback, a tailback. It's called load left and load right. Your problems are over. Your problems are over. I'm telling you, that's how we went to the Super Bowl. Load left, load right. And then we took it to the middle of the field, baby. Yeah, you do what you got to do.
See, but you also had a bell cow back in the backfield that was named Ezekiel, or excuse me, not Ezekiel Elliott. Not Ezekiel Elliott. He was just on the camera. Sorry, guys. Emmitt Smith was that guy's name.
Right.
He was a bell cow back. Tony Pollard's shown he can.
That's exactly what you're talking to. They have gotten the ball to Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard has the most touches out of anybody in the league with 74. So they're getting him the rock in his hand. They're just not getting it across that thick white line.
And I want to ask y'all a question. Does that have to deal with Tony Pollard's ability to cross the line, or is that more of an offensive line problem where they can't move bodies when you get down to the goal line?
Tony is nifty enough, and he's seen that guy that Kyle can't forget. He's seen him run it enough to, you know what? He's nifty enough, and he's got enough explosion to get it in there. Okay. Our offensive line has to pay attention to detail because a little block here, a little block there, and it's a crease somewhere.
So, of course, I had Zeke on the mind because we've been talking about Zeke all the way through. But did you guys ever have red zone troubles like this back in the Super Bowl, the 90 years?
Oh, yes.
It's almost like a baseball hitter in a slump, right? You'll break out of it at some point. How did y'all break out of it?
I hate to say this. Low left, low right, low right. I hate to say it, but that's what we did.
Yeah.
We ran. When we got inside, Jimmy would come up to us, man, face red, hair not moving, and just get it in there. I don't give up. How you get it? Get it in there. Yeah. Well, Coach, what we gonna do? Low left, low right, and then we'll play action pass off of that.
Yeah.
Then, a quick slant to Mike, a fade out to Alvin Harper, a Y option to our tight end. So we had options off of that, but you knew you had to bring everybody up tight. Mm-hmm. Right now, everybody just playing loose, and they can play your play then.
So where does that start if you want the Cowboys to do the same thing? You said it started with Jimmy.
It started
hair
with Jimmy,
not moving.
And it went down to Norv Turner, right into Troy, because Troy would tell us, hey, fellas, we need this. He would go down the line, hey, big fellas, I need this. Yeah. We need to get this going. And even if we ain't gain but 1 or 2 yards, then the next time he'll put that thing in there, and he'll roll out there. And you'll see, I can't think I have tight end name. I know
Jay
Novacek. Jay Novacek. You'll see Jay Novacek like, hey, I'm over here.
Yeah.
Boom.
Touchdown.
Done.
I want to know what hair products Jimmy used.
I don't know, man, but it never moved. I watched them earlier. I watched them earlier, and it still ain't moved.
Barry says, I'm out of this conversation. I can't bring anything to this. Let's go back out to AT&T Stadium and hear from Nick Eatman, who's now joined by Cowboys COO Stephen Jones.
Thank you, Kyle. And as always, I'm joined by Stephen Jones here, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer, right here on the sidelines. Cowboys and Patriots. What's the excitement level like when you have a loss like last week? You want to get right back on the field. Where do you think the team is right now?
Absolutely, and we felt that urgency all week in practice. I think the guys know, they gotta play at a different level than they played the week before. They got to play, with the play style and the edge that Dan expects, that Coach McCarthy expects. We just didn't do that, and of course, hats off to the Cardinals. They had a good game plan, and they came out and ready to go. And I think our guys are going to do the same thing today. They're going to come out with an edge, and I think we'll see what we all expect.
When you say that, I like the way the urgency was, the intensity at practice. What do you see specifically? Is it just more kind of bounce around, more focus?
You just feel it. I mean, you go out there and you can see when guys are into it, and they're talking to one another. They're high-fiving each other for big plays in practice. It's just an edge, and you certainly see it and feel it, and I think we'll see that extend onto the playing field today when we play these Patriots. They're going to be difficult. I mean, obviously, Coach Belichick's one of the best in the business. What he does, he'll have his team prepared, and he'll have a good game plan for us as well. And they got a running back over there, Zeke, that I'm sure we're going to see the best he has to offer, which is pretty good in my opinion.
You used to love it when he would make that big run and do the eats. Now you don't want to see that at all.
I hope I don't see that today, but I know however level he's been playing, it'll be at another level today, and we'll have our hands full with him.
You've had to face guys that you've had drafted before and been a part of this team. You've faced it before. Where does he rank on your all-time Cowboy players as far as just how important he was to the team and just how proud you are of him and the person he's come up?
I mean, someone mentioned it was some years ago to the date that Emmitt Smith came in here, and I put him right there with Emmitt in terms of having to go against a player that did so many great things for the Cowboys. Same type of competitive spirit that Emmitt Smith has, and I certainly put it every bit at that level.
Your offensive line last week, a lot of injuries there. This week, do you feel better about it? Zach Martin maybe with a chance to play and play a lot more. Where's your comfort level in the O-line?
Well, we gained two more, which is gaining on it. We got Tyler Baidaz and certainly have Zach back, who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer in my mind. But to get two of the three back is big. Obviously, Tyron's making strides, but to get those guys back is a big deal for us, big deal for Dak, big deal for the continuity in the offensive line. I think it'll really go a long ways toward helping us.
One more quick question. Tyler Smith has played some left tackle. Edoga's at left tackle. What was the reason to keep Edoga at left tackle and Tyler Smith at left guard?
I think just the continuity right now. I think it says a lot about where we think Tyron's going to be here quickly. Okay. And just to keep everybody, when Tyron does get back, to have the continuity of having the starting five where they all pretty much train during training camp, I think is a big deal.
All right, Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. We'll see you next week in San Francisco. See if the Cowboys can get a big win today. Kyle, we'll throw it back to you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. And that was a much different interview than what we heard a week ago going into that Cardinals game. A lot more optimism in terms of the health of that offensive line, something right there at the back half of the interview to consider. He said Tyron will be back soon. They really anticipate him being back in the fold. They do get Tyler Biadasz and Zach Martin back this week. Both are starting on that offensive line. Huge addition, especially going up against this Patriots defense. But let's talk about the Patriots offense here. They bring some weapons as well. They haven't been able to throw it downfield a ton. They've tried, of course, with Mac Jones, third in the NFL in attempts, but they do have some weapons like Devontae Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster, two guys that have been in the league for quite some time and had plenty of work. Isaiah, when you watch the film on these wide receivers, what do they do well, and how will they try and get after this Cowboys secondary?
They have speed. That's what you see, and that's what caused Dallas some issues last week in Arizona. They have 4-3 across the board. These guys are really pretty similar to that, except for the fact that they're more experienced. I feel like they're still getting acquainted with this offense of Billy O'Brien, and once they figure that out, is going to be a problem because of the versatility and the options that they have on each route. Just don't figure it out this week.
Yeah, when I look at both of these receivers, they're both veteran receivers that know the tricks of the trades of the game to get open in that regard. But when you talk about Parker, this is a 50-50 guy. He got some height on him. You throw the ball up to him, he can make those catches. And to me, that's kind of worrisome when you talk about this Cowboys secondary, because you used to have Diggs out there to where if you throw a ball up, it's more 60-40 towards Diggs. And now with Parker over there, and then you got a young Deron Bland out there, I can see them throwing shots that way. Hopefully he's prepared for it.
I think challenges this Cowboys team more, Parker or Juju?
I'm going to go Parker. Okay. I'm going to go Parker. 'Cause not only is he a 50-50 guy, but he's a kind of a reception guy as well, or possession guy when you talk about it. He can get in and out of his routes pretty crispy, and we all understand that Mac Jones is an accurate passer out there. If you give him time, he can pick apart your secondary. So to answer your question, Kyle, I'm going with Parker on this one.
I'm going to go with Juju. I think Juju's been a sleeping giant over the past few years, ever since he left Pittsburgh, and I think that he's really quietly trying to find his way back into the fold, and I think this might be a great opportunity for him.
He can do whatever he wants. This dude don't understand the playbook yet.
Yeah.
You showed us that big old multi-million-dollar playbook they got. He don't understand the playbook. I'm going with Parker. That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got to have a degree from Washington, like Isaiah Stanback, to understand that sort of playbook and that deep of a book to learn. I mean, these tight ends understand it.
Yes,
they got some smart tight ends, and they've used that to their advantage. Hunter Henry, they go out and they make an addition with Mike Gesicki. When he was with Miami, of course, he had plenty of big numbers, but it's really been Henry as the featured tight end here. I mean, Barry, how tough was it to face a 1-2 punch like this out of that position?
It's tough. It's tough. Because you talk about a guy, Hunter Henry, who knows all of what the Patriots want to do as far as throwing the football. He's the guy during the field from 20 to 20. He's going to make all the receptions. But when you get to the red zone, Gesicki, he makes me nervous. He makes me nervous. This is a tall 6'5" guy. Great catch radius out there. They just going to throw the ball up to him. We'll see what this Cowboys secondary can do. But both of those tight ends, they're dangerous.
They are. It's a 1-2 punch, right? And Hunter Henry's their main guy. He's the guy they want to get the ball to and create mismatches, okay? And obviously, Kurtz would be tasked with trying to slow him down. Gesicki's going to be a possession guy. I can't remember the name of the third tight end, okay, but he's a big play guy. He is big. He's 6'6", 250 pounds, and he is their big play guy. I think he only has 2 catches for 76 yards. So you might want to keep your eye on him as well.
Muddy it up. Get physical. Muddy it up. Put your hands on him. Take them to church. That's all I got. Take them to church. Put your hands on them, man. Because guys of that athletic ilk, you don't want them to get in the open field because back where we say with the wide receiver, the 50-50 balls, they got a shot at them.
See, here's the thing, Isaiah. You said you forgot the name of this tight end. Real quickly, let's just Nate Newton always has the depth chart handy. He always does. So let's take a look here. Let's see where it's at.
Yeah,
Farrell Brown. Yeah, that's the third one. So, I mean, we've already gone back to school. We've already had science lab. Now we're just cheating on the test. That's what ends up happening here. You got to look to the guy next to you sometimes.
Keep your eye on that dude. This dude can go now, and he's a mismatch nightmare. While you're worrying about Gesicki, while you're worried about Hunter Henry, all of a sudden here he comes, and he got that go juice and that 6'6" size. He can go up there and make some plays.
And I'm giving him credit for learning that Patriots playbook. And here he is. Can't even remember Farrell Brown. There you go. All right, let's give keys to the game. How do the Cowboys come out of this 3-1 rather than 2-2 going to San Francisco next week?
You got to win a takeover battle. I mean, we all understand that stat. Whoever wins it usually wins the game. I think it's like 85 or 90% of the time. So to me, Cowboys, force 2 turnovers. Don't give it up. You got a W.
I'm going to go straight to the fact you have to win the trenches. If you lose this ball game in the trenches, and when you say lose this ball game in the trenches, I mean you can't give up over 120 yards rushing, right? And you have to have over 120 yards rushing. You can't let Dak get sacked, okay? And you can't let this game turn into a bloodbath. You have to figure it out. If you figure that out, you win the game.
How you gonna tap my phone line, bro?
That's my when the hotline
blink. Since he going that route right there, hey. You can give up 150 yards rushing, but you cannot give up plays of 45, 44 yards and 69 in a game because that's big plays that give them the momentum. This guy, the quarterback is struggling. Matt Jones is struggling. Keep him struggling. And, and stop the run game if you can, but make sure you can run the ball on the other side.
So my key is something that I know all 3 of you guys know because all 3 of you have played against Bill Belichick. What does he do best against an opponent? Takes away exactly what they do best. I want the Dallas Cowboys to take away what the Patriots do best, and that's that front 7, getting at even Michael Gallup there as well. I want you to take exactly what the Patriots do best and completely wipe that away, the reverse of what Bill Belichick's trying to do to you today. That's my key. Go ahead and get it done. there's a couple things there that you can certainly take advantage of. This defense, it's good, but it's got some weak spots, and I think the Cowboys offense will have a big day against the Patriots. 3:25 kickoff on Fox. It should be a good one. Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews on the call. We'll be back with post-game coverage with the first word right after the final whistle at AT&T Stadium. Cowboys, Patriots on Cowboys Pregame. Live for everybody on our Dallas Cowboys crew. For Barry Church, Nate Newton, Nick Eatman at the stadium, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from the Star in Frisco. We'll see you after the game.